More questions? Any kind. Yeah.
It could sound a little silly, but the question is really simple. Maybe I didn't understand your lecture previously quite a lot, but still keep this question, which is how do I raise my mind to speak differently? How do I motivate my mind to keep it going to do something? It's like how is my mind becoming action?
Okay, I tell you a story. Long time ago, one of our patriarchs, Sunim, was walking with Mangong Sunim. And this is a story we heard from our teacher. And it was very, very interesting that Mangong Sunim was tired, although he was a younger monk, they were walking all day. And nobody ever thought that, they would reach that temple by nightfall. So Kyongho Sunim, he was a very skillful Zen master. And he had to do something. I mean, monks are really not supposed to stay outside, from one temple to another, spending the night out. No, they have to be at the temple. So he saw a few peasants working there. And he walks up to the peasants, and he saw a very beautiful young woman working there. He went up to her, grabbed her, and pretended to kiss her. And then all the peasants, they got really upset. They got all their tools, and they started to chase Kyongho Sunim. Mangong Sunim was relaxing under a tree, taking his time, not so much motivated to do anything. And Kyongho Sunim came shouting, "Run! Run for your life! Run! They will kill us!" So Mangong Sunim, boom, jumps up and wow, runs without thinking. And definitely they reached that temple by nightfall. Okay? So the meaning is that don't go up to any rice field to kiss a young woman who doesn't belong to your family. That's one. Second, how do you motivate yourself? There are two ways. One is your own personal suffering. So maybe you need more. The question is how much more before you begin to feel motivated. And the other is really the bodhisattva motivation, that you see other people suffering. Oh, you say, oh, my wife is not so good these days. Her feelings really down. What do I do to make her happy? So that's a motivation. You're a family man, and then you can do that. So when you're practicing monk or practicing nun, the real question is, how do we help this world? That's number one question. You can make that question your own if that motivates you enough. But if it doesn't motivate you, you have to look for something else. And that puts you on the path. All of those practitioners who stayed on and they carried the Dharma, they experienced some suffering. Without that, they would not have kept going throughout all the difficulties and hardships. The Buddha experienced, when he traveled outside the palace, old age, sickness, and death. He says, wow, do all the kings get that? And then his cart driver says, yes, my lord, all kings will get old, sick, and die. He says, then I don't want my kingdom. My kingdom will not help me. My crown, whatever it is, my insignia will not help me. So why don't we attain the true lordship, the true kingship, the true kingdom, which is becoming free from all this? So his destiny, as the astrologers said to his father, was very interesting. Either he becomes an external ruler of the world, many nations, like Alexander the Great, or Napoleon, whoever, or he becomes the savior of the world. It's actually the same karma, but one is going outside and the other is going inside. So the turning point in his life was when he saw all these, the four misfortunes, birth, old age, sickness, death, and then he saw it's no use going outside. You don't get anything. Nothing. Nothing substantial or quality. You only get maybe more money, more power, more fame. It's useless. It doesn't save you. So, he went inside with the same strength, with the same motivation. He was a warrior. He was not a thinking Brahmin doing ceremonies and reading, etc. So he had a different approach. That's why later, when he attained enlightenment and his teaching went down for the centuries, they started to call him the great hero. In Korean, Daeung. So yeah, I first came to Korea and said, Daeung John. I couldn't read Chinese. He said, Daeung John, the whole of the great hero. He says, who's that? So then, okay. Then one of our instructors explained it. That's the most important Asian reference to the Buddha. Because he conquered his own anger, desire, and ignorance. That's the greatest conquest. A few people in the last 2,500 years could have learned from this and had a true conquest instead of killing people. So, how much motivation do you need? You decide. But then do it, because time is not waiting. One day we die. What's our next body? If we die tomorrow, what kind of body do we get? Okay? That's a very important question. And as the temple rules, say in our, tradition, made by Zen Master Pai Chang and successive Zen masters, water flows down to the sea, clouds float up to the heavens. It has deep meaning. So we have our human substance. But what we do with it, whatever karma we make, affects our next life very clearly. So from this human realm, which of the 10 directions do you go to? Hell, demons, animals, again human, demigods, gods, or the 4 Buddha realms of listeners, self-enlightened ones, bodhisattvas, Buddhas. Which one? By now you know that none of these realms exist by themselves. Nobody has a destiny to go there, a free ticket like on a KTX, okay? You don't have a KTX ticket to nirvana, even though you may call yourself a Buddhist, So, all our actions, all our thoughts, all our speech, we have consequences with them. And don't worry, just be clear. And that's a motivation for you. Next question.
Oh yeah, speaking of motivation, let's see. Almost forgot my question here. Oh, the Pure Land school?
I heard about them, but I never saw the Pure Land, so I may not be the exact person to answer your question about Pure Land Buddhism.
Oh, okay. Well, I was asking anyways then, because I guess they believe afterwards they're going to be reborn in the Pure Land, and then this place will provide them with a place where they're able to meditate and then, go down the path to enlightenment. But they'd have almost no motivation over there because everything's perfect.
Not only that, I think everything is in the future, and that's not such a big motivation. In the old days, when Hungary was even, poorer, there was a kind of sign in every single pub and every single restaurant, credit tomorrow. So you can get credit only tomorrow. So a little bit Pure Land is like that you can go to the Pure Land after you die. If you keep Amitabha mantra, then you go to the Pure Land after you die. How about getting to the Pure Land now? Okay? One of the greatest teachings I've ever heard is that good and bad have no self-nature. Holy and unholy, so pure and impure, are empty names. In front of the door is the land of clarity and brightness. Spring comes, grass grows by itself. This is by the man of Doksung Mountain, Zen Master Sung San. Look around, and if you're free from duality, this land is the pure land. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to wait, especially because after your death, who knows where you land? Right here, right now, if your mind is just like this, very clear, this is it. This moment is it. If you put it back to the past, oh, it was much better in the old days. We had a golden age. You know that concept. We had a golden age. Then came the silver. Then came the bronze. Then came the metal. And now we have the strongest Kali Yuga ever. Okay? Nobody knows what was in the past. But one thing is sure, it resulted in the present moment. So nobody knows what's going to be in the future, but it will result from this present moment. Okay? So do not split the moment into past, present, and future. I'll tell you a story which probably many of you heard in this room. There was a great sutra master in China called Dongsan, and he was the expert of the Diamond Sutra. So one day he heard that in the south, the monks just sit facing a wall, eat, sleep, practice, and they claim to get enlightenment. And they don't even read the Diamond Sutra. So Dongsan says, this is not right. I just have to go there, hit those monks, teach them correct wisdom, then they may attain awakening. So he starts walking with his backpack, with all the commentaries, everything. And he reaches the south, and he goes to an inn, a small restaurant with some rooms above. And he wants to have lunch. There's this old woman, usually in these inns, in these shiktangs, there's always an ajuma, you know, an old woman coming out. He says, "Oh, Venerable, it's so wonderful to see you. Could you please honor my humble restaurant?" He says, "Yes, I'm very hungry. I would like to eat. I've been on the way too long. And by the way, I am Dongsan, the Diamond Sutra Master." He says, "Oh, wonderful. Venerable, may I ask you a question?" "Sure, no problem, no problem." He says, "The Diamond Sutra says, past mind cannot get enlightenment. Present mind cannot get enlightenment. Future mind also cannot get enlightenment. So with what kind of mind will you be eating lunch today?" Dongsa heard it, stuck. As we say, frozen. Totally frozen. He went red, then gray, then white. Face, much change, okay? So he says, "Wow, is there maybe a Zen monastery nearby?" So he goes, of course, following the directions, and Zen Master Yangshan, he was receiving him. He was very kind, very compassionate. He was conversing with Dongsan all night. And then, when it was really, really dark and they had their conversation for hours, then Dongsan said, "Oh, thank you very much, Zen Master. It's really time for me to rest, to retire." And as he opens the door, he says, "Oh, it was pitch dark." And at that time, no public light, no nothing, you know. If you had a little, candle, then you found your way. If not, so right away, he says, "Oh, it's too dark. In this darkness, I don't find my way." So then Yangshan, gives him a little candle. And he says, "Oh, with this light, now I can go." That moment when he said that, Yangshan blew out the candle. Dongsan, as his mind just lost that light, attained enlightenment. His inside light turned on. Okay? And then he said, "From now on, I believe all the teachings of the Zen masters and great patriarchs." And next morning he burnt all the commentaries, all his valuable, smart commentaries on the Diamond Sutra. He became a Zen monk and a Zen master, not just a sutra monk. He upgraded himself into Zen monk. And then attained enlightenment, and then his teaching was no longer about the Diamond Sutra. Anybody asked him, "What is Buddha?" Bam! He hit with the stick. "What is Dharma?" bam, also hit with the stick. You may ask, why was that really, really necessary? Because at that time, waking up was very simple. Really, absolutely very simple. One moment of no thinking was enough. And then the mind opened. Okay? So this hit could open many minds. Other Zen masters said other means. Zen Master Lynch just shouted, "Halt!" Then like that, one moment, no thinking. And if the person was ready, then mind open. Okay? More questions?
But also hitting people.
You like it? You have it. Anybody else? Yeah?
I want to know about what is the happy life. How do I have to live a happy life?
Really?
Yeah.
You want to live a happy life?
Yeah.
Only you? Or maybe also other people?
Yeah.
Okay. So who else? Who else wants to live a happy life? Tell me. Maybe your boyfriend or your parents, or if you are a mother, then your children, right? So, I give you a hint. Your happiness is not your happiness. You have to see your happiness in your children's eyes, in your parents' eyes, in your boyfriend's or husband's eyes. Okay? So if you want to live a happy life, start making other people happy. Then it comes back to you. In the West, many people, they not only ask this question, how do I live a happy life? They will only focus on their own happiness. And it kills everything. It kills everything. So, if you really see that other people, the rest of the world, if they are happy, you're happy, then you will start helping other people, making other people happy, then that comes back to you. Okay? Be careful. You also need wisdom. Sometimes human beings are like children. What will make me happy? Oh, 2 pounds of ice cream. I don't think so. So you must find true happiness. Find true happiness, other people also find true happiness. In that way you can make them happy, and this is the hint. This. Okay? So develop inside a very clear, very compassionate, strong mind, which is totally 360 degrees open. Then you see what is the real need of other people. What is it that they really need? Sometimes it's not what they want. They don't even know. Okay? But if you find that, that's true happiness. Okay? Sometimes you really, just a little bit, have to follow what they want. Just a little. And then they accept what they really need. Okay? More questions? Yes?
In order to get wisdom, enlightenment, is it possible only with the meditation? Because there are many Buddhist ways like worship, chant, but bow.
Mm-hmm.
But, otherwise, we start with the chant and bow, and after that.
Meditation is not bound to sitting only, okay? Anything which helps you looking inside and find your true self, that's called the way. So for some people, it begins with sports. Or it begins with some hardships. Or some people like bowing more than chanting. It really doesn't matter. What is it that helps you look inside, find your true self, go beyond thinking? Okay? Sometimes, like I answered the young gentleman here, one moment, bam! Wake up. So, attaining this one moment of awakening is much easier than keeping it. That's why practicing, some kind of practice is necessary. And then, your life becomes, as we say, straight. Straight. Not left, right, up, down, circles, around some idea. You go straight. So any kind of practice is okay, Bosani. Any kind. And the good news is, Zen, since it's not a religion, is not really dependent on Buddhism. In Korea, or in some other very traditional Asian country, you might see it as completely interlinked and interrelated with Buddhism from the culture where it grew up. But even in China, this wasn't so. Because Zen is really the child of Taoism and Buddhism, as they mix together. Okay? So because it's independent of its cultural origins, even in the West, other religions can practice it. And every single religion produced something similar to Zen. For instance, in Christianity, the mystical or Gnostic Christians, they were some really interesting group of people, usually monks in those days, sometimes sitting in monasteries for many years because they attain God. They don't just pray to God, they don't chant about God, read about God, they attain something. And their whole quality changes. Okay? Silesius is, for instance, one of them. Okay? You're welcome. More questions? Yeah, sure.
It's also very simple. How do we know what's best for us? How do we know which is better for me? I have heard you said that originally there's no meaning and no choice, but we make our choice and then etc. But as we live in our real life, there's many situations we face that we have to make choice determination which will fit best for us. But sometimes it's really hard to get to know which one is better way.
This is the happiness and choice side of the room. So, how do you make the right choice for yourself? You already understand. First of all, I need to make one of your statements a little bit more complete, if you don't mind. You said no reason and no choice. That's only 50%. So the complete teaching in this subject says, if you look at human life, it has no reason, no meaning, and we have no choice because we will die. But if you attain no reason, no meaning, no choice, then big reason, big meaning, big choice appear. Don't forget that. Because if you just attach to half of the intellectual truth, it spirals down into depression. A whole group of European philosophers called existentialists, they were very, very depressed. They found out only 50%. They could only describe the problem, but they did not have the way, the pangbop, the real teaching, to come out of it. Okay? That's why many people, they ask me, why did you go to the Orient to study something? It's because we didn't have it in Europe. That's why. We still need to import quite a lot, So, don't just stop at 50%. Make it 100%. So form is not just emptiness, emptiness is form. Remember that. And how do you make the best choice for yourself? Try to help other people. It's the best choice. So if you choose that your choice would help others, sooner or later they will choose so that they would help you back. You cannot isolate yourself. This world is not about being isolated anywhere. Human beings have such a penetrating karma on this planet, and even in the Himalayas now, everything is melting. Everything. So those hermits who've been sitting up there for 20 years, they look at the ice and the snow and says, I haven't seen it like this in the last 20, 25 years. So you cannot isolate yourself from anything and anybody. Even if you build a huge base, 8 stories, 8 house floors or stories under the surface of the earth, and you have lead walls of 6 meters to shut out any radiation, it's all delusion. You cannot isolate yourself. We breathe the same air. We drink the same water. We use the same soil. Impossible to escape. Impossible to isolate. Okay? So how do you make the best choice? Try to help other people. It's the best choice. Then it comes back to you, just like happiness. Okay? Good. More questions? Yeah.
As a lay people, which case should I think or not thinking? Don't think.
Could you repeat your question, please?
I mean, I'm not a monk. I'm a lay person who lives in society. I might have a job, or I have to deal with everyday life. So sometimes I need to think, but sometimes I heard that not thinking or not thinking is good for my decision. So which case should I think or don't think?
Okay. So when it's necessary to think, then think.
Yeah.
And think clearly. When it's not necessary to think, then don't think. The best example is not really thinking because it's so elusive. We don't really see it so well. But a good example is talking. How many times do you notice that we talk uselessly? Totally, absolutely uselessly. Tradition calls it animal talk. Only about likes and dislikes and unimportant things and events and people. All day, all night. Unnecessary speech. It's called that animal speech. Okay? And when you really speak, and people listen, then it's necessary. So, return to clear mind, no thinking, and based on that, based on this clear mirror consciousness, think clearly, decide clearly. So like I said, return to no action, wu wei, mu wei, and out of that, based on that, act clearly, wei, wu wei. Okay? Without that, not clear. In the center, there will be some idea, some I, some thought, some emotion, some past karma, some future hope. So clear the slate. That's why Zen has empty circle. Clear it out. And instead of some idea, have this question. What is this? And that makes your mind very clear. And based on this clear mind, you can clearly see your situation, relationship, and function. In fact, it's very simple. We dress it up now intellectually so that your intellect would have a good dinner. Good thoughts, good teaching. That's your dinner. But ultimately, it does not depend on your thinking. Remember that. But you have to do it. So, the first part of your question, that you're a layperson and you have jobs, etc., that's not a hindrance to your practice. In fact, it's the motivation to your practice. Because you have to perform. Why do you think, some people who stay in monasteries, they become lazy? Because they don't have to do anything. So without motivation, without the great bodhisattva way in their consciousness, they will not do it. They will just eat donated food, wear donated clothes, and make the worst karma ever. So, when a great Chinese Zen master was asked at the end of the 90-day retreat, "Great master, how will you be reborn?" Then he says, "I will be reborn as a cow in my lay supporter's house." And that meant a very strong warning to all those monks who did not practice correctly. who did not make the correct effort. Because what does a cow do? The cow has to give everything away. The milk, the meat, the bones, the leather, everything. So you have to serve back your lay supporter. I think if you look at your own obligations towards your family, towards your co-workers, that really inspires to develop some really clear quality. Because that's the best service. You don't make suffering for them and for yourself. In that way, you can always decide correctly and, bring about some correct happiness. Okay? So, practicing is not relegated to monks and nuns only. We have to clearly put this on the table. Every single person has Buddha nature, the potential to attain enlightenment. Therefore, anybody who makes even 1 day of effort already got closer an inch. So, it's up to you how you shape your life, how much free time you get. You know how much free time you have? 24 hours a day. Think about that. No, I have to do this, I have to do... Come on. Everybody listen carefully tonight. So make your correct choice. Make your correct choice. And then there is time for practice, there is time for work and food and fun and movies, and there's time for everything. But make your priorities correct. So decide what is most important, next important, last important. Okay? Then no problem. Okay. More questions? Yeah.
I know this seems quite dualistic in thinking.
Great. Duality is good.
Well, I was wondering, everything seems to have a counterpart, such as happiness seems to have a counterpart of sorrow. So, without that counterpart, would we realize true happiness?
No, we would not. No. The Buddha said, without suffering there is no enlightenment.
But yet we don't want to think dualistically? Or?
If you don't want to think dualistically, you already do. Just think. Just think. Just do it. So become one with the world. Okay? Then your thoughts are not for yourself. Therefore, there is no duality between I and the world. So thoughts are not bad. But if you think about them and you build up this dualistic image as I versus the rest of the world, immediately it becomes dualistic. Okay? So without the mud, the lotus would not grow to the surface of the pond. Without suffering, we would not get enlightenment. So some religions call this earth the valley of misery or the ocean of suffering. No, ladies and gentlemen. This planet is our best chance to attain awakening, because we come, we stay, and we go. And before we actually lose our, potential, we are already aware of this. So if we become aware of this, just like the Buddha did, we can practice, and we can use our existence here to the utmost. Because you already know that outside you do not get anything permanent. Not because I say that, because that's the way the world operates. The shroud has no pockets. That means this big cloth which covers dead people has no pockets. Okay? Last question.
One last question.
Hang on for a minute. Let's put it on standby, and you will also have a question if somebody else, those who haven't, would like some. Going? Yeah, there you go.
How many people do you think have actually gotten enlightenment?
Only one. You. Welcome. But you lost it, I'm sorry. Don't depend on words and speech, please. Okay? Then true enlightenment can appear. When the Buddha attained awakening, he saw originally everybody is awakened. Originally everybody is Buddha. But we are not aware of that. Okay? Good. Your turn.
I was wondering if we can use this karma, because I have heard you said that we can also use the karma.
Yes.
It's like I also have heard a lot of times you said that get enlightenment and you just do it, but without true enlightenment you cannot just do it status. So I know you emphasize a lot about this practicing, and practice clears your mind and you can status, don't know status. But this Zen masters, even they need to take a lot of time to clear their mind. I mean, it seems so to me. So even though no matter how much I practice hard, it's there is a probability that I can get there, but there is still karma coming up to me. So just to get rid of this karma, I think I could use this karma, like the form, perception, feeling, just like you said. So is there anything you can say about this using karma?
Yeah. Delete this thinking from your mind. Because this is what binds you. Then you can wake up. Then your karma doesn't control you. And if your karma doesn't control you, then you can use your karma, because your karma no longer uses you. But the turning point is really one moment of total, clear freedom. And you don't have to practice so long time. You know why? Because time doesn't exist. This moment is the only thing we have. The past is gone. The future hasn't come. The only thing we have is this moment. It's worth an eternity. Okay? So how clear is this moment? How clear is your mind? In that sense, time and space, incarnation, it has no relevance. Because if for Mahakalpas you repeat incarnations without awakening, is the same as one moment of ignorance. And if you wake up and you become clear, it's exactly the same as Mahakalpas of being in the Buddha realm. No difference. So don't use time or the illusion of time as an alibi, as a kind of mitigating circumstance to avoid our original human responsibility. So we are humans. We can behave in many ways. But responsibility is one of the most important things that we should consider. Because that brings us back to spiritual adulthood. That we are responsible for what we are doing. We cannot blame another being. We cannot blame other beings for what we are, for what we are doing. And probably most of you know that if humanity does not grow up to this basic responsible level, we can do even more harm than we have done so far. And we can make our human life a lot more difficult on this planet than it already is. So the real question is, how much suffering do we need? And the moment that a significant majority on this earth says enough, then there will be no more. Because if you listen carefully, you already know. In your intellect, you already know that suffering does not exist by itself. We make it. So, how much do we need? How much do we want? And the moment we say enough, then there's no more. So I hope all of us will take up some kind of practice. It doesn't have to be Buddhist. It doesn't have to be Zen. But one thing you should promise yourself, that you attain awakening and try to help all beings so that we could use this earth and we could use our lives here correctly. That means attain enlightenment and save all beings from suffering. Thank you very much.